Welcome to SoCalSportsReport.com's weekly podcast. I'm John Stellman along with Vince Morales, and back is our traveling gypsy,
right.
John Adams. As we do every week, we give you guys a little menu of what we're going to be talking about tonight. And we've got to lead with the NFL draft. We're not going to do a big, long 97,000 player draft, but we'll give our insight, a little bit of thought on who we think the Rams and Chargers might grab and where the local quarterbacks might go. We'll talk about the Angel-Astros series. Angels lost today 5-2, but I figured I wasn't counting on a win against Verlander anyway. 2 out of 3, I think, is outstanding. In Houston, they go in there a game and a half back and come home a half game back. It could have been 4.5 back if they'd gotten swept. We'll talk about that. Talk about Walker Buehler, who had a sparkling debut and looks like he might be back Saturday over the weekend to fill in holes. So we'll talk about that. One last post-mortem on the Kings and the Ducks, who were both swept out. John wasn't here last week, didn't give a chance to get his input, so we'll talk about that. Lakers, maybe a lot of talk about Kawhi Leonard in a possible trade. That may be just wishful thinking. We'll give that some thought. Clippers, where they might go and what's ahead for them. I'll just mention that the Seattle Sounders are going to open up the brand new Bank of California facility Sunday night, 6 o'clock against LAFC. Be their first home game of the year, the home opener. They've done very well, 4-2 playing their first 6 games on the road. The Sounders are 1-3-1. The LAFC beat the Sounders for their first win of the year on opening day in Seattle. Galaxy and New York tangle at StubHub Saturday night at 7:30. I don't know if John wants to talk about the ladies'
We'll see where we are.
LPGA Tour at Wilson.
Yeah.
But let's get going with the draft and start wherever Vince wants to go.
I heard that the Browns are shopping the 4th pick, which makes things a little more interesting, which makes it seem like they're really targeting a quarterback for sure in that first spot. They don't want to deal it. And I've had this discussion with lots of people, and my feeling about that first pick was, you've got Darnold, you've got Rosen, you've got Allen, you got Mayfield, Lamar Jackson. You've got all these guys, and I don't personally think there's one of those guys that stands out as a number 1 overall pick. And so months ago, when free agency was starting, I was talking to some friends and saying, why the Browns have so much cap space? I think they've got something like $60 million in cap space. Why aren't they going after a Kirk Cousins?
Exactly.
Or, something like that, right? Yeah. It just seems odd to me that they would bank on another draft pick, on another young rookie, somebody who will sell jerseys, but if they don't win.
Yeah.
And again, the Deshaun Kaiser thing, I thought he was a serviceable guy who just needed a little time. Again, another guy who came out early, who needs time. Yeah. And it seems like they're just making the same mistake again. This is going to be, if it's Darnold or Allen or Rosen, it's going to be another guy like Kaiser who came out early.
Yep.
And has some youth and immaturity in their game. It confuses me, and the Browns confuse me. And when you have that much money to spend, I don't know what they're waiting to spend it on. I just don't get it.
Why would they give up the number 4? They need defensive help too, isn't there?
You'd think
big defensive guy out there.
They need help.
Could take number 1.
Well, no matter where you go, they need help.
Well, that was my position months ago.
Right. Was
trade that number 1 pick. You've got the 4th pick. You might still get a quarterback.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Trade that number 1 pick. Sign a quarterback.
Yep.
Sign. There's some good ones out there. Mm-hmm. Sign a quarterback, and then let the chips fall where they may. You've got a bunch of picks, right?
Yeah,
you've got 1. You've got 4. How many in the first round? The 2, right?
Yeah.
3 in the first 33.
Yeah, they could trade that number 1 for a load of draft picks.
Yeah, But now they're pot stuck because unless they're trading for a quarterback or something, it feels like they have to take a quarterback, and it feels like that quarterback is Darnold, who I think is the right pick. I think he's the right pick. I think that he's going to bring more to the table immediately. Has probably more of an upside than Rosen. I think for Rosen, there's sort of he could be Peyton. He could be Peyton or Eli Manning, but he also could be Jay Cutler, right? What that teammates don't like, fans don't like. So I think there's too many ifs on Rosen for the number 1 overall pick. Is he a tremendous talent? Sure.
Yeah.
Is he a smart kid? Sure. But there's a lot of ifs. If he keeps his nose clean and doesn't piss off his linemen and his defense, if he stays engaged and listens to his quarterback coach and his coach, if he doesn't spout off and piss off a blue collar city, here's a upper class, rich kid who does come across as entitled, wrong city for him, just the wrong city for him. Too many ifs.
Yeah, I can see
Too
that.
many ifs. So for me, it feels like it's Darnold, but I don't know who's going to be eventually the better quarterback in the NFL.
John?
The draft's funny to me because it's just the biggest poker game you've ever seen in your entire life, right? They're like, nobody talks about anything, and you get guys to go leak stuff just so somebody has something to talk about, right? But you really don't know what these guys are thinking, because once the first pick is picked, from that point on, everybody's like, what if this and what if that and what if, and everybody for the last month going into tomorrow afternoon has possibly put down every scenario possible. If this guy gets picked, we take this guy. If this guy gets picked, we take this guy, right? So, I mean, I just laugh at mock drafts because the mock draft is like, something that, Berkshire Hathaway should say, if you get the first 20 picks correct, I give you $1 million or something crazy. Because it just usually doesn't flow that way, right? But, other than I'm trying to think back, right? Eli Manning, Peyton Manning. I mean, name a lot of first-round picks that are actually starting quarterbacks in the league right now. I mean, that are very successful. I mean, I don't think Phillip Rivers was a first-round draft pick. Oh well, Goff is now. Goff was a first-round draft pick. But I mean, the guys that have won Super Bowls, Brady was 6th round. So there's a lot. It's all about protecting these quarterbacks and getting this. So I'm a big fan of building my defense, building my offensive line, getting a good running back. And you know what? I'll find somebody to throw it to somebody. I just think there's a lot of great quarterbacks that have gone through this league that were 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th round guys. And I'm talking a little bit like Vince is like. None of these guys are ready to start. I mean, but everybody talks like they could fill in right now. No, they can't. Yeah. Like they got to have guys that can teach them the ways, and learn from these veteran guys. And in Cleveland, I absolutely agree with what Vince said. Why don't you go out and get a veteran guy and then maybe pick up one of these guys like Lamar Jackson late or somebody like that can teach these guys. Now, I think whoever the Jets get are going to have a good teacher in McNown. I mean, McNown has helped Johnny Manziel a little bit he came out and said, McNown was the best thing that ever happened to me. He taught me the ropes. He said to me, you can sit here right by my side and learn I've been in this league quite a long time because I do my homework and I'm ready. And I watch a lot of film. I'm here on time. I'm not screwing around. And you're more than welcome to jump on my hip and learn. And Johnny came out and said, he was really big on me surviving until I screwed it all up, right?
Right.
So that's what, Vince has a great point. Go out and get a veteran guy. You could have got the kid from Minnesota. You could have got a Kirk Cousins. There's a lot of guys that they could have signed, and then bring in one of these guys in the 4th or 33rd pick or whatever, right. and bring them in and let them nurture, because you can't throw these guys to the wolves. No. I mean, there's just no chance, right?
With all the cap space that the Browns had, there were so many scenarios other than just, sitting on your hands. Again, even if they didn't trade any of the picks and they go out and they sign a free agent quarterback, get an O-lineman with their first pick, maybe Shaquan Barkley with their fourth pick.
Right. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you got a team. You got a very interesting team. A free agent quarterback, a new offensive lineman. There's still some work to be done on the defense. Their defense is terrible.
Yeah.
Or you get a D lineman because their O-line, who knows? But I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And it's one of those things as a USC fan, I pray that something happens and that Darnold doesn't go to that team.
And then the other thing is, excuse me, is they don't have a good track record of picking a quarterback in the first round.
Exactly.
Or anybody for that matter.
Well, it's true. It's horrendous, right? It's like, remember Couch they picked, and there's a lot of great quarterbacks out of college that they picked that was the next best thing next to sliced bread. Guess what? You're not protecting the kid. And so what is he doing? He's making stupid mistakes. You got to, in the NFL, I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, you got to be able to establish the run so you can throw the football, right?
Exactly.
And you need to, and you lost Joe Thomas, right? So you're going to need an offensive line. And I always think, and look at, I'm sitting here on a podcast and I'm a golfer, right? So I'm not a football guy. But I'm going to tell you right now, if my two lines are really good, I can build from there, right?
Yeah.
And I really feel it's like, look what the Chargers have done. They're starting to build that front line. Look what the Rams are doing. They're building that front defensive line because the defenses are keeping them in games, right? So obviously both teams got good running backs. The receiving cores are pretty good. The one quarterback's a little young, but coming out, we have a veteran with the Chargers, but no backup, right, really? But it's doable, right? It's competitive. But I'm the big believer that you got to start with your defense and work off of your offense. I don't know. That's just me. But you got to, if you're going to go grab a brand new quarterback, you got to have a line that's going to protect the kid or protect whoever you're putting behind there.
Right.
And so I don't get it. I'm with you, Vince. I don't understand why they didn't spend some of this money on it.
What are they saving it for?
Right. I don't know. I honestly, I just don't know.
And I'm wondering if they're saving it for later to buy, like to trade up and put cash or I don't know.
And then look at what the Rams are doing. A really dynamic young team with a young coach, a young general manager in the front office, a world-class defense, and an offense that's really starting to scare teams. Guess how much cap space they have? $250,000.
Yeah.
That's how much cap space they have left. So they're done.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
But look how the Patriots do it, right? They're like, hey, you can have my 33rd pick. I'm going to I'll trade him for this guy right here. Already established, already knows how to play football, already knows how to do it. I don't know what I'm going to give with that 33rd pick. You can have it, but I'll take this receiver, I'll take that defensive end, I'll take that safety or whatever, because their scouts know that this kid is going to work well under Belichick. He's hardworking, blah, 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 and he's already established himself as a pretty good football player. He's already gone through the role, and he already understands NFL football. You don't know what you're going to get out of this kid. You can have the 33rd pick, and I'll take this guy. And that's where the Patriots are good. They draft late. Like, what are they, 16th or something like that? They have a pick? I don't know. It's like, I don't know what it is. Sorry.
They have 23rd pick. 23rd. From the Rams.
And it wouldn't surprise me if they just take like somebody to protect Brady or another defensive player to help them on the defensive side.
They've got 23rd and 31st pick. They have their own pick at 31, and then they have the Rams pick at 23.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. At some point, the sort of the genius of Belichick is evaluating talent. But at some point, Lenny and Brandon Cooks go, you risk. There's that risk reward sort of thing. They didn't want to pay him number one receiver money. They just didn't want to do it. And that's why they traded him, because he was going to want an extension. Whereas coming to the Rams, it just felt better for him. And he's not getting that number one money, and he won't. And he's got an option for next year. So at some point, you've got to be thinking, wait a minute, they've got a 41-year-old quarterback who now has
no doubt
receivers that nobody's ever heard of. something's got to give
Yeah.
at some
Right.
point,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's
And I think they're going to try to get a quarterback in one of these picks, right? And maybe a Lamar Jackson is there or something like that. But with the receiver situation, let the guy go with number one. But we make superstars out of Hogans and Welkers and these kind of guys. Like they're good in finding those crafty little gutsy receivers. And they'll find those guys. That's where they're really good at that stuff. But I have a feeling they're going to try to find something to help Brady, or they'll trade to get somebody behind Brady somehow, some way. But they need to start looking towards the future and the change. But I don't know, Vince. I just don't see a guy like the Patriots trying to draft a quarterback for the future. They're willing to go get somebody that's established, that's a free agent, and pay him.
should not have let Garoppolo go.
Exactly. Yeah.
But again, they knew that they were going to have to pay him money.
right.
And I think they felt like, look, we're already paying Brady. Just the way that it works. I'm not saying it's the right approach, but just the way that they work and looking at Tom Brady and the kind of money that they were committed to giving him, they might take that 63rd pick and bring somebody in who they can try and develop.
Right.
I mean, good Lord, Matt Castle won games for them.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Did he ever start? Did he ever start at USC?
No, didn't start a game at USC.
Yeah.
That's right.
Hey, trust the process.
Yeah, that's just
Trust
it.
the process.
It's do your job.
Yeah, yeah.
It's do your job. And again, it's because that's the genius to the program and the system that he has. It's like trust the system, do your job.
Right.
Right? And it's never his fault. It's always who didn't do their job.
That's right.
Yep.
Who goofed.
We'll let John answer this one. The Chargers have the 17th pick in the first round. Would they use that pick? Would they try to move up?
I don't think they're going to try. I thought about them possibly wanting to move up, and then I thought, you know what? They're just going to really try to build off of their defense, right? And that's what Telesco's kind of mentioned is like, hey, look, I need inside linebacker help. I need safety help because they lose Trey Boston. They lose Perryman. So they're going to have to try to keep building that defense. And I think that's one thing that he's, adamant about is keep building the strength of that defense. And, I think he's done a great job in the last 4 years with Perryman and Bosa and, Williams was, hurt a lot last year, and Lamp too got hurt last year. But I think he did a great job in the last, his top picks. He's done well, but I don't know. I think he's just going to keep building on those type of positions, defensive back, safety, inside linebacker, maybe a good D lineman. I think they're going to keep doing that, and they'll just real late. They'll try to find maybe a fourth receiver because he's done great with finding Hunter Henry to replace Gates. So maybe he finds another good tight end there also late. But I'm going to throw something out at you, and I don't want you guys to look at me differently, okay? Because I think you guys know as well as I know that if there was going to be a trade up, it would possibly get like a Lamar Jackson, maybe, But I don't think that Geno Smith and Cardell are actually our future of our quarterbacks.
No.
Now,
definitely
again, don't look at me differently here, okay? It's way out there, and don't throw the baseball at me, Vince. But
It'll be a wild pitch anyway.
What do you think about this possibility? Going to a Kaepernick, going to a Johnny Manziel, letting him know, here's the deal, we're willing to sign one of you guys for league minimum because nobody wants you guys,
That's
right?
right.
Or nobody wants you guys. In this contract, you're going to have to sign, you're going to have to stand for the anthem. If not, you'll be fined a large amount of money, right? Johnny, you're going to have to stay on the straight and narrow, right? And if there's any screw up, we have the right to, release. You can build that contract however you want to build it, right? And offer them a chance to possibly come back into the league. Two guys, guy like Kaepernick has been in a Super Bowl, right? And I think two better backups than what they have. Again, it's just an idea.
What they have is
I'm throwing it out there.
zero.
I know it's too, I don't know. And the Chargers are so kind of underneath the radar in Los Angeles anyways. And I don't know if that kind of gets things spiced up. But I was going to throw that out to you. Say, is that like idiotic? Is that stupid? Or is that like a possibility
Carroll,
that,
I think Pete Carroll's interested in Kaepernick.
Well, he was, and now he's not. So I don't know what's going on there, because there was some hot talk about Kaepernick, coming up and doing something, and then it got shut down. And
What's the Players Association have? Do they have any control over the wording of contracts? Can teams put things in their contracts about standing for the anthem, or does the Players Association?
I don't know if it's be in the contract, but they're abiding by team rules if it becomes a team rule. But I don't know if it's even allowable. I mean, obviously, it's a workplace issue, and I don't think I think it's a slippery road that nobody really wants to take and undertake. I reject a couple of the premises. Number one, I don't think Kaepernick will take a minimum contract.
Right. Yep.
I just don't think he will. I don't think it's even about the standing or the anthem or any of those things. I just don't think he'll take a minimum contract. And the other thing with Manziel is he'll take a minimum contract. I'm sure he would. But I don't think Manziel's better than Cardale Jones or Gino. I just don't. I'd rather give Gino a try there, and I'd even give Cardale a try before Manziel. I just don't think he's better than them.
Okay.
So those are the two premises that I reject, but I don't think they're wildly out of touch. I just don't think they're going to happen. For one, I think Kaepernick. I think that if you just stop and say, I think the Chargers should have offered Kaepernick something, I'd say, yeah, he's definitely better than those guys. If they can work out a deal, whether it be, personal conduct or whatever, if they can work something out, that's a great alternative if Rivers goes down. He won't sign for the minimum. He just won't sign for the minimum. And I think that the Chargers sort of understand that, and that's why they've got these just nothing contracts with Geno Smith and Cardale Jones. So I hope Rivers stays on his feet.
Yeah, and so that being said, I think they do try to find somebody really late as a quarterback to bring as a fourth.
They've got to start thinking about life after Rivers. I mean, he's not going to be around forever.
Right. Which makes you think about, okay, who are the free agents next year, right? So is that where they're going to spend their money? When Rivers is done, I don't even know what's left on his contract, but or did they start looking at that? So, but I think
they have him through next year.
Yeah, so I think they're going to really focus on defense, maybe possibly some offensive line, but I think a lot of it's going to be defense. They got Williams, hopefully that stays healthy. They got both Williams got the receivers along with Allen. They have Henry. They have a good offensive core. Gordon, as a running back. And then I think they just keep building that defense and taking care of a couple holes. But I think that's where he's going to focus on that. And then, as every GM says it, they all say, "I'm just going to take the best player at the best spot," and it's just
that's a crock.
It really is. It just drives me nuts.
That's a crock.
Best available talent.
Your best available talent.
I'm sure that there are times when things go a little haywire and then they go, well, we better take the best guy.
And he's also mentioned that we were 30th in the NFL in returning kicks. So he's going to try to find some type of a speedster that can return punts and kickoffs also. So, or is there no kickoffs this year? Is it?
No, there.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, there we go.
Put the ball on the 30-yard line.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
It's the NC2A that's got a joke of a new rule coming in, which is the fair catch inside the 20 brings it to the 20.
So getting back to it, it's probably going to be an Alabama player. Because they have like 19 players in the draft or whatever. But I mean, they're talking about a Rashawn Evans or a Tremaine Edmonds from Virginia Tech and Alabama. So as an inside linebacker help. So, but again, I don't want to put names out there because it's just, by the time they get their pick, those two guys could be gone and they could be going after a safety. So, exactly. I don't know.
There are a couple of things that I've circled on my charts for the draft, and they're not names. They're just about angles and things to watch for that I'm really intrigued by. So, for instance, the New York Giants pick second and the New York Jets pick third.
Correct.
Which I think that's going to be so cool to sort of trace what they do with those picks. And number 9th and number 10th is San Francisco and Oakland. Again, Bay Area. Yeah. Then we've got regionally Carolina and Tennessee. You're not in the same conference,
next door, yeah.
not in the same division, but next door. And it sort of strikes me. And then there's Atlanta, New Orleans, 26 and 27. And then the New England and Philadelphia because of the Super Bowl, like who they are going to get because they're picking right back to back New England and then Philadelphia. To me, those are the types of intriguing things that I'm going to look for and sort of track because I think they're fascinating. And you, if you're a Giants fan, you're thinking, we got to get the guy who does better than the pick, the Jets. We're going to steal the Jets guy.
So I guess here's my question for you guys. If you're Cleveland, now that you haven't went out and spent any money,
spend no money,
right? What do you guys? Because I think the best guy in the draft is Barkley, and I would just say I'm going to go get him. That's what I would do. Yeah. Now, me being the way that I would think about the draft would be I'd just trade all that stuff for possibly guys that are established in the league, right? And I would be drafting offensive and defensive linemen is what I would be drafting. If I can get those later and maybe get these trades up, the top picks. But everybody talks about, those first 10, 15 guys, they're going to be wearing the yellow jacket down the I'm like, yeah. How many times has he said that and it's never happened, right?
Yeah.
So I guess what would you do? Because I think if it needs to be like I got to pick one, I'd pick Barkley. That's my choice because I think he has for the Browns the best chance of really moving the football and helping me out ASAP.
I absolutely agree with you. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I had this conversation months ago. It's like. And again, it's because fiscally it doesn't make sense. You can't pay a running back number one money. You just can't. So, for instance, one of the best running backs out there is making $8 million right now. If you draft a guy at number one and you sign him, he's going to be making $8 million. That's just how it is. He's going to. That's how the picks work. So if anybody drafts Barkley at one, they're paying him $8 million. But the best running backs out there, the most productive running back out there, is making only $8 million right now. Yeah. So that's quite a leap fiscally. So I understand why everybody says you can't take a running back while fiscally it's not the right thing to do. But for me, it was always, he's the best guy. Yeah. So if it doesn't make sense for me financially at one to take him, then I'm going to trade that pick and move, and because I've got the fourth pick.
Right.
And maybe the New York, even if I get just a little bit, and the New York Giants want that number one pick, and they're going after a quarterback and not a running back, I'll make the trade.
Right.
Even if it's just a little something.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Even if I have to pay him just a little bit less, than the guaranteed $8 million or whatever it is that he's going to get. I agree with you. I think Saquon Barkley is the guy. He's the best player in the draft. He's the best offensive player in the draft. And I think the Browns, I thought they should get him and do whatever they needed to do to get him. But to pick him at one would be a mistake fiscally for him. It just will.
Yeah. The question is, would he be there at 4?
I think he will be there at 4.
Barkley?
Yes.
Well, no, I think the Giants will take him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Unless, and this is where you throwing the dice, right? If Allen goes 1, I think Darnold will go 2 to the Giants. Then I agree, he could be there at 4, right? Yeah. So that's kind of how I see that going. But if Darnold goes 1, I think the Giants take Barkley at 2. Because I'll tell you right now, the Jets need a quarterback, right? The Giants have a quarterback. They could use somebody to back him up, right? Right. And
you can get that down the road.
So and that's what I'm thinking. If you talk about like how close is Allen or Mayfield or Darnold as a quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. So if they sit there and they go, well, if we take one of these two guys and not take Darnold, we have a great chance of getting Barkley at 4. So do they take that chance to getting two good players at 1 and 4? Where if they take Darnold, now who do they take at 4? Right? So, but again, it's just you're throwing dice and flipping coins and So I don't know. It's all these. It's like walking down the street and the guy's got the where's the ball at, right? And
you saw what the Giants did to Eli Manning at the end of the year last year.
Yeah, but you got a new coach there that's offensive minded, and he's come out and said Manning's my guy. So he's
Well, that's because he had to say that. I mean, if it was the front office's decision, and I'm hiring you and saying, what do you think about Eli Manning? And the guy says, he's my quarterback. And it's like, well, that's not what we think. So thanks for playing. I mean, if it was the front office. Now, if it was just a coach's decision and they were saying, okay, that's fine, then the front office was dumb, because that's just the worst and most unfair thing you could have done to a guy who's brought you 2 Super Bowl championships.
Right.
It's just,
For sure.
just crappy. But if all that is just smoke and mirrors, then maybe they're going to get a quarterback. And that's sort of what I think that they're going to do.
And if Darnold goes to New York, that's what Darnold needs. Darnold's not ready for the NFL. Well, any of these guys are, right? But if they can get good, training from a veteran who's won 2 Super Bowls, that's good. Because Eli's got to be the first one to tell you.
Yeah.
He doesn't have many more years there. But if you can kind of build this guy up, to teach him the way.
Yeah, Darnold should be ready by the time.
Right.
Manning's
Yeah.
gone.
And that's, and he's brought up in a big city. He's going to go to another big city. So he knows how to handle that stuff.
Yeah.
But none of these kids, I mean, they're lucky. I think they're lucky to get there in 3 years. I mean, it's very rare that you have a Goff or a Wentz or somebody like that kind of go do what they've done, So I have a feeling that some of these kids could do that, but I don't think it's the right play.
No,
the right play
I
is to educate them and teach them and teach them the ropes and tape them up against a deal and tell them to pick up the bags and go grab my notebook and all that kind of stuff and learn from. And the Giants, it would be a great fit for the Giants with Darnold, because he got an offensive minded coach, I
feel the same way, and I think that there's the picks are one apart, but for Darnold, it could be the difference between if he goes to the Giants getting broken in as a quarterback, and if he goes to the Browns just getting broken as a quarterback.
Jets too, yeah.
I'm concerned for his health.
I'd
The
be
Browns are a
concerned-
broken collarbone waiting to happen.
I would
for
be
him.
concerned for every quarterback in this draft that's one of these top 5 guys that has to possibly play their first year. It's just it's so hard.
It's
I can tell you right now, Rosen is not going to the Browns. That's not happening. Rosen will not go to the Browns.
No.
He's just not. He doesn't fit the city. He doesn't really fit. If he's just not beefy enough, he gets a little too hurt. He's just not ready for that. Yeah. I could see him in New York. I certainly could see him in New York. I could see him with the Jets, but the Browns.
Yeah.
No.
Could see him with the Broncos.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
going to be interesting. Yeah. Going to be interesting. All right, let's shift gears and talk the Angel Astro
What
series.
about the Rams? Talk about what do you think?
They
the
don't have
Rams
a pick.
They don't have a pick.
They don't have. I mean,
Well, I mean,
87?
87th is their first pick.
and what do you think they're going to try to do with their 87th, 190th, 3040th pick in the draft? Where do you think they might want to build on some stuff? Maybe another receiver somewhere down the road, or is he going to get another
honestly, I have no idea.
17th tight end?
Maybe a linebacker.
Yeah, because you lost a linebacker. Yeah,
maybe a linebacker. He could also just decide to go with an offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't have any idea. Yeah. I really have no idea what they're going to do there.
It's almost like back in the day when what's his name picked Ricky Williams, and he says, "I trade all my picks for Ricky Williams." What was this from the Ditka? No, was it Ditka? Who was the coach in New Orleans? He was
it was Ditka.
Ditka, and he wore the dreads. He put on his jersey, and he says, "We're done." He traded all his picks for the running back. Oh my God! Like the Rams are just going to be sitting back, just having a cup of tea and eating biscuits and.
There you go.
Yeah, no, that's
They're done.
and they're set. They're okay.
Yeah, they're done.
So, all right, Angels. Sorry.
Angels, Astros. I was very pleased with that series. I love the way Skaggs pitched the first game. 102 pitches, but he was spot on. And the game last night showed me a lot of character. They were up 4-1. They go down 5-4, and I thought, oh boy, here we go. This El Foldo. This is a done deal. They came right back, and winning those games in Houston too. Houston's the world champions, and they're probably one of the 3 or 4 best teams in baseball. And to be able to, and they threw some pretty good pitches at them. To come back and get those 4, and Simmons was just out of control last night.
Yeah,
5 RBI.
2 home runs.
But I'm scared, John, and I'll tell you why. Our bullpen has thrown more innings than our starting rotation.
They've thrown more than anybody in
and
baseball.
they've thrown more than anybody in baseball. And I just think there's a gigantic escalator going straight to Salt Lake that's on a 2-way deal, and they're just high-fiving guys back and forth. He's in for 2 weeks, he's in for 2 weeks. It's just you're going to have to get these guys to go 7 innings, and it's just these guys are spent. I mean, they're having to bring in kids that weren't even invited to the, I think Anderson, this kid from Houston who came and throws 98 miles an hour. I mean, it's pretty good stuff. But I mean, you're bringing in a guy that was actually not even invited to spring training, right?
No, and minor league camp.
So I think you're going to see the whole buffet table coming back and forth, from Salt Lake and Double A. But you got to get these guys to go longer.
The starters have got to go deeper
longer,
They got to go at least 7 innings.
And obviously, I think Ohtani, I feel like Ohtani's learning how to pitch a little bit better, pitch, not just throw 99 miles an hour. But it's obvious that if his split finger's not on, he struggles a little bit. So I think he needs to learn how to live a little bit more with the slider, and the curveball. And I don't know if you try to teach him how to throw a change, or I don't know if he has a change. He does have like 6 pitches, but the split finger's obviously giving him blister issues. And I'm thinking here we are with Hill again, with the Dodgers. But you could tell like it took him a while before he even threw a split finger, and then they weren't very good pitches.
Right.
I talked to Jeff Blum this morning, the Houston Astros commentator for TV, and he said it's pretty live fastball. He was pretty impressed. He goes, they knew that they weren't going to see a lot of split fingers from him because of his issue, but overall he thought it was above average. He thought he was pretty good. He said.
It's a learning process.
He said the umpire behind the plate was horrendous.
Oh, yeah, that was terrible.
And it was on both sides.
Both sides.
It was on both sides. So, pitches that were called balls were strikes, and strikes that were balls. So,
brutal.
He was pretty brutal. And so, but, he said overall, he goes, it was pretty impressive, but he's only going to be really successful if he can get the split finger over or near the strike zone.
Or a secondary pitch.
Right, yeah.
Another
pitch.
Or
be able to throw the slider really good, and not miss. But, very gutsy performance. But, again, had to go to the bullpen and eat that up a little bit. And so
you got to get Ohtani, Richards, Skaggs. You got to get those guys into the 7th inning to start with. And then, where's Haney? Haney pitches 4 good innings and then blows up.
Yeah.
You can't have that. You can't.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, you can't live on that bullpen. I mean, that's
you can't do it. Those guys are all known for coming in and throwing 90 or whatever. So it's good to go see. We attacked our old sidearm slinger there, Smith.
I was glad to see that.
Yeah. So and here they go, scoring runs with 2 outs again. It was good. So
yeah, I was encouraged by the way they came back with the sticks.
Yeah.
After falling behind, but you're right. I mean, they're not good. You're not going to go very far with relievers that are eating up more innings than the starters.
And you look at the Astros, right? And the Astros, the coach there has only had to come out the whole entire season to pull a starting pitcher, right, in the middle of an inning 3 times.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just you're going to have to be able to get these guys to battle a little bit longer.
Yeah, they're going to have to
stop throwing 80 pitches in 5 innings, 90 pitches in 5 innings.
Exactly.
Although that one guy, he fouled off 21 pitches or something like that. It was so
JD Martinez.
Yeah. So, but
Walker Buehler, pretty impressive.
Yeah,
first
he did.
game.
He looked great, and then he got the shuttle to Oklahoma City.
They say
he'll be back. He'll be back Saturday, they think. Yeah.
They've got that makeup doubleheader. Is that Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah, he'll be back to probably pitch one of those games.
He looked solid. He throws hard. And he looked very good. They're going to limit his pitches this year, and I'm not too worried about him. I think he's going to be fine. The problem is not directly the starting pitching per se.
Right.
It's this is a team that is among the major league leaders in blown saves. This is a team that is towards the bottom of the pack in home runs and slugging, and can't score a lot of runs. When they win, it just feels unsatisfying.
Right.
It's a 3-2 win, or it's a
2-1, yeah.
win that they should have won in regulation, but Kenley blew another save, and then they win it in
Now,
extra
he didn't get up
innings.
the other night, did he? In that 1-1 game.
And then last night he didn't get
get
up, and it was Cingrani gives up a game tying double, and then
After a balk.
Baez comes in and gives up the game winning double.
Yeah.
The next inning, and things like that. It's the Marlins, and they're losing tonight 3-0. With Kershaw on the hill against a terrible, and I hate losing to Don Mattingly with such a crappy team. The Marlins are dreadful. The Marlins are dreadful, and when you're dropping 2 out of 3, and so the other thing that I look at is, Dodgers before last night had won 7 of 8. Right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And they had won 3 of the last, and then after last night they've won 3 of the last 5, and they're scoring 2.8 runs a game in those 5.
Wow.
And so it just, I'm not sure that Justin Turner is the answer. Somebody's got to turn it around. And when you've got Kershaw, who just has not looked sharp, I mean, you can look at his numbers and you go, hey, Kershaw's being Kershaw.
Yeah.
But then you go, wait a minute, home runs. I don't know how he gave up his runs tonight, but he just hasn't had the velocity.
He only had 3 walks going into tonight, and he had 2 walks in the first 4 innings or 3 innings.
Yeah.
And when that's the kind of Kershaw, that middle of the season type of Kershaw that you don't see until he starts to wear down, and that's happening at the beginning of the season.
That's concerned.
It is a concern, because I think that there are plenty of people who go, on the East Coast, who go to bed at 11 o'clock Eastern when the game is just first starting,
right,
and look at the stats in the morning and say, oh, Kershaw, had another quality start or whatever, and they don't look at the intricacies
numbers,
of it,
yeah.
and the intricacies of it are, they scare me. They scare me. It's a bad bullpen right now. There's nobody there who wants to stand out. There's something wrong with Kenley. I don't know what it is. They're trying to let him pitch through it. Robert says it's mechanics. Other people look at it and say, well, it's got to be something wrong with his arm. The velocity is just not there.
Yeah.
And I'm not one who buys that a guy can lose that much velocity by getting his mechanics wrong. Well, they say he's such a big guy that the motion that he's going through, and it's like, here's another balk that leads to another run. Kenley Jansen had one earlier in last week, and and Cingrani gives up the one, and so who knows on that double if he would have scored from first, but he certainly scored from second to tie the game, and it's just, again, you don't give yourself enough of a margin at the end. I'm very, very worried about this team. This is a very ordinary team.
Does Buehler have a chance to stay up and get a spot in their rotation? I mean,
it's hard to say with this front office. I don't know. There's a possibility that I think what happened is with Urias makes them very worried about how they're going to use Walker Buehler.
I can understand.
And so they'll use him for a couple of starts, and Rich Hill will come back, and then they'll go and put him on a very restricted pitch count at Oklahoma City. And that's probably the right way to go. But when your team is struggling like this, starting pitching isn't the issue right now. It's just not the issue.
It's run support.
Yeah, you gotta give the pitchers.
It's not the issue. It's on base and it's run support, and they still don't have anybody who's hit more than 3 home runs. It's very bad. It's very bad.
I agree with you. I don't see where one guy, Justin Turner's coming back, is going to turn the whole thing around.
No,
I mean,
and now at this point, it was like, oh, wait till we get Justin Turner back. It's early. Wait till we get Justin Turner back, and then it was like, oh, Kershaw's working stuff out. Okay. So once we get Turner back and Kershaw works this stuff out, then okay. Oh, once we get Kenley's
straightened out,
mechanics back, so now it's Turner, Kershaw, Kenley, and then the bullpen's been great except for the times that they're not, and when they're not, they're not.
Yeah.
And it's and then at the beginning of the order, Taylor and Seager started they were just terrible. They couldn't get on base.
Right.
Seager's coming around. Taylor's got 3 home runs. He's starting to come around, but he still only hit 240. And that's not what you want to see out of your leadoff guy.
Yeah.
There's not enough of that. There are times when I'll tune into a game, in the 8th inning, and it's like Taylor, Seager, and whoever they've got batting third. And I'll just think, oh, God, there's nobody going to get on base. Hopefully Bellinger, if he's hitting third, or somebody who's ever hitting third, Kemp, or whoever's hitting third, has got to hit a home run because Taylor and Seager aren't getting on.
Yeah.
Taylor, they both swing early in pitches. They don't drag the counts out very much. In the 8th inning, you want to see things change.
Yeah, we're always successful when Puig hit the ball, right? You know, when I don't know if Puig's a real, you know, generates a lot of, you know, excitement in the dugout or whatever. But I know that later in the year or during the, you know, the playoffs and stuff, Puig hit the ball well, and actually kind of those guys ran off of that, right?
Yeah,
And
they
also
kind of
Bellinger was
fed off
doing
it.
it. But I agree, if you're not setting the table, who the hell is going to drive you in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
that's right.
and so.
And then Roberts, you know, just it's like I've had this discussion with friends, and it's, you know, what does Jock Peterson have on Dave Roberts?
I don't.
Why does he keep
That is
plugging him in?
atrocious.
Why does he
He's
just keep
terrible.
He's awful. But Tolles is hurt in the minors,
is?
so
Okay.
it's not like they can just plug him in. But you start looking across, and it's like, you know, he did the same thing with Scott Van Slyke until Scott Van Slyke just completely hit himself out of the lineup. And there he is. Where is he? In Cincinnati, he's hitting 140. He's had like 40 at bats. He's hitting 140. He's going to be out of the major leagues soon.
Right.
And then there's Trace Thompson, who the
There's another
Yankees
one,
had
yep.
picked up, and then they're like, we don't want him. And then the A's. Now he's with the A's.
yeah.
No,
And
he went
he's
to Chicago, back to the White Sox.
and now he's back with the White Sox.
He's already away from the A's.
That's-
He had a great game against the Dodgers, right? A couple of great
He had a
games.
hit. He had a hit against the Dodgers when
He
he
caught a
was the-
ball or something. Yeah.
But that's 4 teams, and it's like, again, you know, here are these guys. What is going on?
I saw a thing in the paper the other day about Robert saying he wants to get Peterson going. I want to
You know what? Get him going in Oklahoma
Get him
City.
going.
Yeah.
Get him going in
You
Oklahoma
can't-
City.
Yeah. Go scare him. Go scare him. Go
yeah,
sit
or
him
in
down
spring
there.
training, get him going. You don't get him going when
He get him
trying to
going.
ball
He's
him.
been asking him to get him going for 3 months now. He's
Yeah.
not getting going. Right?
I'd rather he give his autistic brother Champ a shot in the lineup. My God,
Oh boy.
Peterson. I'm done with Peterson.
Yo, I'm
Done.
surprised you were.
But
even,
but again, you know,
you were
it's like-
done. You were done in the last game of spring training. You
Yeah.
were done.
But you know, where's it going to go? Is it going to be Verdugo or Tolles? And again, they don't want to rush. They don't want to rush those guys. Tolles is injured, so it's sort of a moot point. But the other thing is that I just, you know, I don't know what we're getting when we go. Kemp has had a couple of good at bats. He's striking the ball well, and then we got to put Peterson in for defense. It's like, no, we don't. We're up by 1 run. I want to see another at bat out of Kemp just in
exactly.
case the bullpen blows it again.
Yeah.
I don't need somebody tracking down a fly ball, a routine fly ball. I don't. That's we're not going to get that sort of thing. It's just Kemp is good enough, right?
Right, yeah.
I'd rather have Kemp's bat than Peterson's bat. Kemp's bat and his glove, the sum of that is greater than the sum of Peterson's bat and Peterson's glove. It just is. And everybody needs to know that. And anytime you put somebody in a late inning, look, if they're up 4 runs, okay, fine. Put Peterson in for defense. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if it's just that one run where it's not going to count on defense, it's going to count on a blown save, then you need another at bat out of a guy who can hit the ball.
Right, where a possible second run could give you that security for that relief. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and nobody's pitching around Jock Peterson.
No.
And they're just not. So when Jock Peterson gets hits, it may sound exciting to Dave Roberts and to the fans, but the bottom line is that that's just because they were going right after him because he is seeing fastballs, first pitch fastballs. And so if he happened to get lucky and hit one and put it in play and get on base, it's because they're not taking him seriously as a batter. It's because they're throwing him fastballs. He's not hitting, one of those cement mixer type of breaking pitches that he can hit all day long.
Right.
But anything that they break off on his back foot or up in the zone, he's worthless.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to talk about your Ducks going out? You weren't here last week.
My Ducks, going out.
Ducks,
It was embarrassing.
Both swept. This was the last time we'll talk about hockey for a while.
Yeah, it was embarrassing, actually, to be honest with you. I think it was bad hockey. I thought the best game they played was the last game. But like we talked about prior to going into the playoffs, we were afraid of the offensive power that the Sharks had, and they really showed it. Having Fowler out in defense was one of the things that we knew that was going to be an issue. But you know what? It was really simple. They were better. They wanted it more. And you could tell, like, it was a better hockey team all around. And, a team that was 8-1-1 or 8-2 going into the playoffs played like they were, hurt back in the, middle of the season and struggling to have, between Getzlaf, Perry, Kessler, their top 4 players, I think they had a total of 4 points. That's just that's terrible. Getzlaf on a couple games, the first and second game, it was bad hockey. Like, you didn't deserve to have the C on your chest. Like, it was bad hockey, and they don't deserve to go on. And, they go off and fire the assistant coach. And, is that the answer? Like, I don't know if that's the answer, but, it is what it is. I thought that the Kings, and the Knights, that was an unreal series. That was... Like, our stuff wasn't even close other than the last game. Yeah. His games was like a final. That was just great hockey by both goalies were phenomenal. But, the Ducks are the Ducks. I don't know what they're going to do in the offseason. I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but they don't deserve to go on. It was embarrassing. It was tough to take, and, it is what it is.
They fired that Trent Yanni, who was the...
offensive guy, right?
Well, the penalty killers. His they finished. They finished in the top 5 the last 3 years.
Yeah.
In penalty kills, so they fired him.
Yeah.
Somebody had to be. Yeah, somebody had to go, right?
Bruce Boudreau holdover. Yeah, probably the 8-1 game killed him.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So it was. It is what it is.
I think I said once before I wouldn't be sorry to see Randy Carlyle go.
Nope.
I think I mentioned it last week. He's a good regular season coach. He's not a playoff coach.
Never been.
It's a whole new ball game, and he's proven time and again that.
And they go back to him. They go back and give him another job. And look what the Knights did. I don't know who the general manager is up there, but he did a great job. I said that guy's a great coach. He's a good coach up there that they got. And obviously it's shown that.
Who was he working for last year?
I was trying to think. Was it Edmonton?
I don't know.
I forget where he came from. We talked about it though, but it was Again, I'd rather not talk about the Ducks anymore. But his Kings, that was a tough series. It was still a. Fleury just stood on his head, but so did. Yeah. I know that Vince was scared about him. They were scared about their lines coming at him and forechecking, and it was.
One of the things that I said last week when you weren't here, and is that I think a misconception from a lot of hockey fans who didn't watch those games in their entirety is that it was so close that if something just went one way for the Kings, it would have been a closer series, and it's absolutely not true. The Kings were outgunned completely. Mm-hmm. They didn't have the depth to play against the strong 4 lines of the Knights. They kept saying, "Oh, if we can use our speed to sort of wear them down." No. They had 4 lines that grinded Kopitar and Doughty and Brown down, and we missed Doughty for 1 game. It just wasn't as close as it felt to people who didn't watch every second of that series. It felt like it felt like we were close to. It's like we need just a little break to at least be in the series, but it never felt like, oh, if we win this game, we have a chance to win the series. Right. It felt like, well, if we win this game, we've won 1 game and maybe we can win a second. Yeah. That's what it felt like. It didn't feel like, oh, we win 1 and we can win the series. It felt like, let's steal one. The second game without Doughty that we lost in overtime in Vegas felt like it changed things, but it also felt like we never really had a chance.
I kept you guys in a lot of those games too.
There's absolutely no question that he did keep us in the game, but we were understaffed on defense. Kopitar did hardly anything, and when you think of finals series, you think that your best guys are grinding, they're working,
yeah.
and he was grinding and working, but there was just no productivity
Right,
because
yeah.
he's older and the Knights were just better. They were better because they ground him down with their first line, they ground him down with their fourth line, they ground him down with their power play, their penalty kill, and with it never
I think
felt
it's going to be a
close.
great series, actually, Vegas and San Jose.
It should be a very good series.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really good.
Very good
So.
series. Lakers. What are you guys' thoughts on trying to acquire Kawhi Leonard?
Well, I was just out in San Antonio for a week, and they know he's gone.
Do they?
Yeah, they're like, he's gone. And they actually said to me that if he was to show up on the bench, he would get booed because they just think that he's checked out a while ago. And it sounds like in San Antonio, he's not welcome. Like, he's not welcome at all, So that's kind of, me, watching it at a tavern or whatever, I was watching the games, and these guys could care less about him. They're like, he's done in our eyes, not even showing up. Like, he goes, he goes, a perfect example is, here's this game we're watching against, Golden State, and there's their star player, right? He's on the bench rooting them on. Where's our star player? Oh, he hasn't been in the building forever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So they're checked out, and then coach lost his wife, which was a big thing there. It's kind of wild. It was, Barbara Bush died the same day or the day before, the coach's wife did. So that was kind of a sad thing, but he's gone. Now where he goes, I have no idea. I don't even know the contract situation, if he's a free agent or whatever.
Free agent after next year.
After next year. So I don't know
It
what
would
they're
have
going
to
do
be
there.
a trade,
Yeah.
and
That'd be a trade.
I think all indications out of San Antonio is, you may say he's gone, everybody may think he's gone, he may be acting like he's gone, but he's still our property,
Right, yeah.
and we're not going to give him away
Oh,
for
right.
pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
That's just not going to happen.
So I mentioned the Randall deal, and everybody, the people are saying, I don't want Randall. So if it's a Laker, like it's a, Leonard for Randall plus some else, like they really don't want Randall. Well,
No,
again, I'm just talking to fans.
I don't know that. I don't know that it's going to. I don't know that Randall has to be involved. They don't want that contract. Is
Right,
what they
yeah.
don't want.
Yeah.
They'll take a Ball and pick and somebody else, and Ingram. But he's just not worth that.
Yeah.
He's not worth that to the Lakers. I don't see it happening.
Yeah,
At all.
I don't either.
I don't see it happening at all. And I
Clippers?
also don't see. No, I don't see that happening either. I mean, he might. They might take a run at him, but
Who's that?
I doubt it.
the Clippers with Leonard.
They could. They got a few more assets. I don't know. I don't think so. My feeling with Kawhi is that I don't know how he fits on this team. I really don't. He's another sort of undersized guy who had become a superstar, but now he's been injured, and now he's sort of a gold bricker, a malingerer. He's a malcontent now. So who wants that guy on your sideline? Popovich can be a bit of a taskmaster, but he's also one of the most beloved coaches in the game. And if you can't get along with him,
and the other thing that was going around there is he might be gone.
Pop?
He might, Pop, losing his wife and everything. He
aside.
just might just say, I'm done. That's the other
Right.
thing that possibly was floating around there. But that's the other thing it came back to. I'm sorry to interrupt here,
No.
Vince, but how healthy is Leonard? I want to go do this trade, or I want to go pick him up.
Yeah, you sure have been nursing that
You've
injury.
been nursing something for quite a while.
Long
Like
time.
how is this something that could?
More serious than
I'm
it's
fine
been,
now,
yeah.
but it could reoccur. And all of a sudden I've just lost one of my star players, or a draft pick, or money, or whatever, and this guy's
Right.
now living his life on the DL. Like, I don't know.
The old saying is, there's three sides to every story. There's yours, there's mine, and then there's the truth.
Right.
And somewhere between what the Spurs doctors say about his injury, and somewhere between what Kawhi's doctors say about him, is probably the truth. I don't think he's able to play at 100%, but I don't think that he should be sitting out either.
Right.
And for me, that's one of those things where it's like, okay, I think that indicates that he's going to be fine for next year. And I think that's exactly what he wanted. But I don't think he wanted to leave San Antonio. I think it was just one of those things where it's like, I think he went in there and said, look, I don't want to leave, but I can't play. My doctors are telling me that I can't
you
play.
sit on the bench?
Yeah, but I don't think Pop would let him. Pop wouldn't let him. You know, Pop said, you're not playing and you don't have any intention of playing. You're not sitting on the bench. I think that's the kind of ship
Well, not
that
playing and
Popovich-
not having any intention to play is much different. If you're like, hey, look, I want to sit on the bench, I can't play. The doctor told him, and Pop was like saying, yeah, the doctor told me you can't play. But now the doctor said that you possibly can play and you don't want to, then I don't want you on the bench. There's a difference between I can't play and I don't want to play.
Yeah, well, and again, it's who do you believe? The Spurs doctors say he can play,
Yeah.
and his doctors say he can't play, so don't play. He's listening to his own doctors,
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, again, Popovich is a bit of a taskmaster and is going to say he doesn't want to play, and Kawhi's saying that's not. I want to play, but my doctors are telling me
Not to.
that I shouldn't play, so I'm not going to play. That doesn't mean I don't want to.
So what he's saying is he doesn't trust the own team doctor.
Yeah.
Is that because he
Basically.
went and got a second opinion? Is that
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. It's absolutely because, you know, and again, so I think somebody's telling him one thing. So I don't know enough about his injury to know whether or not should be impacting him. I do know that it's the sort of thing that indicates that the guy absolutely needs to change his scenery. But who's going to pay for that? I don't think the Lakers should pay for that.
Think the Boston might?
I think again, the indications are that they have the assets,
Yeah.
but I think Danny Ainge is much smarter than to kowtow to what the Spurs and Popovich want for Kawhi.
Yeah.
I think he'd be a great fit there.
Plus, he's a free agent next year. After next year.
Right, exactly. And so if you can't tie him up and you can't get him in to sort of figure out where he is physically,
Physically, yeah.
Yeah.
it's a crapshoot.
Yeah, I
It's a
agree.
crapshoot, and the Lakers need to be spending their time on the Paul Georges of the
Yeah,
world
yeah,
and
yeah.
LeBron Jameses of the world, and you know, that's where they need to stay. That's where they need to keep their focus. And the other thing is that, you know, the stuff that I read about Isaiah Thomas, it's like, oh, he might be willing to take a pay cut, but he really wants to get paid, but he might be willing to have that, like, okay, I'll prove to you I can do it deal. In my opinion, I don't want Isaiah Thomas. I don't want Isaiah Thomas because he is a shoot-first point guard,
Yeah.
and there's no way LeBron comes, and there's really no way anybody
Yeah, LeBron's not
who's a
gonna come.
scorer, which is what we need, is going to come to LA when Isaiah Thomas is your point guard. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
I think he's great to tutor Lonzo to sort of say, hey, take your shot when you got your shot. And we saw Lonzo before he got hurt, his shot was starting to improve. But as far as I'm concerned, if they can package Lonzo in a deal, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
As long as we can keep LeVar.
Well, you know, he's pulling his kids out of Lithuania. Did you hear this?
No, what happened?
Yeah, he doesn't like the coach. He says, I love Lithuania. I love the other
Shocker.
players.
Shocker.
He said,
Really?
yeah, but he said didn't get along with the coach, so he's bringing him back.
Yeah.
So is the older kid, the middle kid, is going to be eligible for the draft. He won't get drafted.
No.
I'm sure teams will work him out, but he won't get drafted. The Lakers will be courteous and they'll work him out, but he won't get drafted.
What about the young guy?
Well, who knows what he's going to do? He has no options. He's played pro, so he can't play college. He's not even ready for college. He's still got another year of high school eligibility. I don't think he'll be able to play in a high school anywhere.
No.
So he'd have to play overseas, but it doesn't look like any European team or international team in their right mind would want to sign him. But I think that experience, that ship has sailed. You know, LeVar thought he was so smart and smarter than everybody else, but he just screwed the younger kid.
Yeah,
pretty
he's going to
much.
have to go work for Big Baller.
Brand, yeah.
Brand,
National sales manager.
You know, but again, he's thinking about putting together that league just
Where the
so
kids
that
get
kids
paid.
like his kid can go in there. But if he starts to take a kid who's still underage to play in something like that, that's going to lose all of its integrity, and any chance at people really taking it seriously. You just can't do that. You can't do that, and you can't make exceptions because that's your kid. You just can't.
No.
You can't do it. So, look, I'm hoping that at some point it's going to be the last we hear of LeVar Ball for a little while. His older kid played well enough, but it was just a crappy, Lithuanian
D3 league
club. And his other kid was only getting 12 minutes because, you've got guys out there smoking a full pack of cigarettes during the game who are 35 years old. And all they want to do is just knock that 110-pound 16-year-old on his tuchus.
Yeah.
It's, it was never an ideal situation for that poor kid. He played, he averaged 6 points a game in his 12 minutes per game, but most of his minutes came in those sort of exhibition games that were all ball or whatever, and that's where he got most of his points. So he wasn't scoring in the actual Lithuanian league or whatever the heck it is. What's called the Dracula League or, Vlad the Impaler League or whatever.
Palisades Asphalt League.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think unless John wants to talk about the LA, we can wrap this thing up.
Just real quick, I think Wilshire Country Club's great for the LPGA. I think it was great that LA had a ladies tour event. Very happy for him. Moira, who won, has been in her sister's shadow for years. Her sister's won multiple times on tour. They travel together. They're always together. So it was a very emotional thing for the sister to come out and see her other sister that's never won before win. But overall, it was great. The weather was phenomenal. I hear that all the players love the golf course. So make small. Long story short, it was great, and it's going to be there for I think a couple more years. So, Wilshire Country Club is a great place to have the ladies tour. So, hopefully I'm in town to go see it next year. So.
What was up with Valero? What happened in the Valero?
Valero Texas Open. It was great. Andy, I just went blank.
That guy.
Kid from Austin, Texas won. He was the guy that lost to John Rahm in the desert. He won, and it wasn't easy. He grinded it all the way down to the finish, and Trey Molinix just made some mistakes coming down the stretch. But, one of the things that I did here which is going to be really unique for next year, is Shell doesn't have the Houston Open anymore. And the Houston Open got a lot of big names to come to play because it was always the week before the Masters. And to do that, the Shell Houston Open said, we will actually make the golf course look and feel like Augusta National. So it was almost like a great practice round for Augusta.
What a great idea.
Well, Shell pulls their name off this last year. They raised enough money individually through sponsors to be able to keep keep the Houston Open, right?
Right.
But now they're still looking for a sponsor. So now what I heard is Valero in San Antonio has signed a 10-year deal with San Antonio, and they will now be the week before the Masters. Okay. The problem is that golf course looks nothing like Augusta National.
Nobody will play it.
So I don't think you're going to get the big names to come there. So they're all ecstatic thinking they are, but you're not. Yeah. The only way that those guys are going to go play there is to just kind of play a round of golf and get ready. But if you're a defending champion and you're in, I could see these guys leaving on Friday or Saturday for Augusta the week before and just kind of getting their rounds in there, But I don't know. It's going to be really unique on how that, because there's a lot of guys that just don't go there. I mean, it's not very patron friendly when it comes to watching, going and watching golf. The front nine goes way out this way, and the back nine goes way out this way. You can't walk from the front nine to the back nine. Right. So it's either you choose which nine you're going to go watch. Yeah. And it's all, the people are all based around 10, 16, 17, and 18. That's so I'm curious to see how that's all going to go down next year. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that will wrap it up. We are out.
Good night.
Peace.